passing lane. Sky's a jam. Dynamite dunk and the crowd loves
it. Welcome back to Pistons Intellect, your home for the most informed Detroit Pistons news and analysis. I'm your host, Jack Kelly. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_313. And before we get into today's show, if you're feeling so kind, please hit that subscribe button. I want every Pistons fan from around the world to join me on this journey of reviewing all 82 Detroit Pistons games from this upcoming season. The Detroit Pistons played basketball last night, and man, what a freaking game that was. The Pistons end up falling to the Heat in Miami, 102-103. But man, there's a lot of positives to get into and to take away from this one. And normally, the way I want to do these is probably do a game overview at first. But man, there's only one person that we need to talk about to open up the show here. There's so many places we could start. But the biggest and most important aspect of last night's game was the return of Cade Cunningham. And not just the fact that he stepped on the floor and was back in Pistons colours, and he was back looking healthy. But man, he was without a doubt the best player on the court. A court shared by Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero. Players that have all played in the NBA Finals, in the Finals last season. Third year guard Cade Cunningham showed up and showed out. He finished with 30 points, 9 assists, had 1 steal, 1 block. He shot nearly 50% from the floor on 27 attempts. And, I mean, one of the things I've been talking about all summer is that three-point jumper, and it was back. He hit 4 of 9 from deep, shooting around 45%. It was really the complete performance for the most part for Cade. And if you want to look at it through the lens of this being his first official NBA game since early November last season, it was simply amazing. I mean, I'm a Pistons fan. I'm trying to stay level-headed here, but I think anyone tuning into this, Pistons fan or not, if you watch that game, you were like, man, this guy, this is who the Pistons envisioned when they took him with the first overall pick. This is who draft experts saw when they had Cade Cunningham pegged at pick number 1 in the 2021 NBA draft. I mean, to get into his game here, the mid-range is still killer. Per Synergy Sports, he shot 5 of 5 on dribble pull-ups inside the arc. He had a couple of plays where he dribbled to the elbow, faked it, got the defender off their feet for the contest, and then Cade just faded away and hit that mid-range. He's got so much diverse in that mid-range. And, I mean, between the mid-range pull-up and then his pick-and-roll play, mainly with Jalen Duren, I mean, I don't think they connected on an official lob in the pick-and-roll last night, but just having Jalen Duren set those screens and allowing Cade to get into the teeth of defense and make decisions, find three-point shooters or get his own. He was cooking. He had 2 stretches in this game. I think it was in the second quarter. He had an okay first quarter. I think he had around 6 points, 5 points, something like that, maybe 7. But in the second quarter, he scored like 11 points. He was just getting whatever he wanted in the mid-range. He got to the rim once or twice, but that mid-range game, we saw it last season in his 10 games, where it became sort of the staple of his, at least his scoring attack. And last night, it was cooking. It was, yeah, I'm trying to stay level-headed here, but it was super, super cool just to see him come out and play like that. For Pistons fans that have been waiting for so long, we've been waiting for a star of this kind of caliber, in the sense of a guy who you can just give the ball to and you know is going to make a top line decision. Like, that's something, at least since I've been a fan in 2012, this team hasn't really had. Maybe you could say Blake Griffin, but he wasn't a point guard, and I know he played that point forward role and he had an awesome season, but we only got a season of it, or a season and a half, and it's different. As dynamic as Blake was, Cade is a true playmaking guard, scorer, facilitator. And I think I tweeted it out during the game, but that was for me, like, the calmness, the pacing he plays with. And when I mean pacing, like the way he sort of just never sped up, whether it's going in ball screen actions, like in the pick and roll, when he's like snaking around, he's not sped up. And I think that is such a special trait. And I think we've honestly seen that from Cade when he was a rookie. He just hadn't been able to put it together until probably a bit of last season. But I mean, last night he looked excellent, and he's never sped up, and it's just always a calm, cool approach, never flustered. Like some of the other guys we might get to a bit later, and other players around the league, he's just never flustered. And that Miami team is a heck of a defensive team. And I know they've lost a couple of key players in free agency, but at the core of their team, when you have Bam Adebayo there, who's arguably the most switchable big in the league, he's a top defensive player of the year candidate every year. Someone who can switch, he can play a lot of coverages, so they can throw a lot at you if you're running, because the Pistons run a lot of pick and roll with Cade. So having Bam there, they can Miami can cover a lot with him there, but Cade just is able to navigate, not get too flustered. He might miss a shot badly, he might make a turnover, but you just know each time he comes down the floor, it's a new possession, and it's going to be most of the time making the right read and getting a pretty good look. So, I mean, he was brilliant. Like the fourth quarter for me, he had 9 points and 4 assists, and man, there was that play where the Pistons are down 4. Cade, just no hesitation, gets it around the midcourt in transition and just pulls up for a 3 in Bam Adebayo's grill to bring the Pistons within 1. Like that was nuts, just to have the confidence first game back to just go, nah, I'm putting this on my shoulders, I'm cooking, and then to drain that was really cool. Just to round it out on the Cade agenda that we're pushing here is that he had some really nice defensive moments. He had, in particular, there was this might have been my favorite possession of the game, and it was in transition. I think Kevin Love grabbed a rebound under the Pistons basket, threw one of his signature outlet passes to the half court, and I believe it was to Tyler Hero, who had Cade trailing him. Cade just, it wasn't even a chase down, like pin off the backboard. It was a chase down. Cade almost got like in front of him and just swatted it straight back into the floor. Ball bounces up. Jimmy Butler gets it. He pump fakes Isaiah Stewart, thinks he's got the open layup, and then Jalen Duren just comes flying from the weak side and pins it off the glass. And not to get too off track here on Cade, but I can see the vision there when you have that kind of length and athleticism flying around, blocking shots. You can start to see what Troy Weaver's trying to build, albeit there is some holes that need to be addressed and things that need to be worked on. You can see with all these athletes and long wingspans and 6'6" guys flying around it's really fun. And Cade's another one of those guys. He had a steal with around 2 minutes to go in the fourth where he's denying the ball, not even looking, and just because of his 7-foot wingspan, his arms just in the passing lane, he gets the steal, and then they take it down the other end for a lob to Jalen Duren in transition. And just more key plays. That's what Cade does. He makes key plays. Excellent game from Cade. And I mean, I think I speak for everyone when I say we absolutely can't wait to see him on the floor against the Hornets tomorrow. Moving on from Cade, which I think I've spent a lot of time talking about Cade, but I think it was worth it. So moving on from Cade, the other two guys that stood out to me, just in terms of helping this team win, get back into the game and fight, was Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren. Those two had monster games on the stat sheet, and I really felt like their presence was known as a front court tandem. Stu finished with 14 points, 14 rebounds, 6 which were offensive, and he also hit a couple of threes. Jalen Duren had 17 points, 14 boards, 6 offensive as well, 3 assists, and then a monster 4 blocks. So those two were just wreaking havoc. They made it tough for Bam Adebayo. They rebounded the ball. They just, like Jalen Duren's blocked shots. They just made a ton of plays, ton of gritty plays. Isaiah Stewart, that felt like one of his better games I've seen him play. And for those that don't know, I'm a big Isaiah Stewart fan. I'm not saying he should 100% be starting, but last night he put his best case forward to start with his team at the 4. And I think, especially with the way he looks alongside Duren, I know there's issues with the shooting, and even when he's knocking down the threes like he did last night, the defenses still don't 100% respect him, and that's going to take a while, and that's the thing he needs to improve on majorly. That's no secret. But one of the things I enjoyed was how Monty Williams and the offense had Duren and Stu set up. So a lot of the time, it was Cade obviously had the ball at the top of the arc, and then Jalen Duren was sort of operating there as either a screener or a handoff option for Cade, where they're going to run some like double drag or things like that. And then they'd have Stu situated in the corner, which for spacing isn't ideal, but they ran a couple of these plays where it wasn't even really a play. It was just Stu would dive in to the low block from the corner, get a really good post positioning, seal off his man, and then Duren would hit him with the pass into the post, and then Stu was able to turn around at least on one and hit the post hook, and that's a shot I don't mind. I think that's a way you can make those two work with Jalen Duren's passing ability, and they got a couple of nice looks out of it. So, and I think Jalen Duren, you can have him in the dunker spot, but I also think with Cade Cunningham on the floor, you just want him setting screens for Cade. I honestly think they could have ran more pick and roll with JD and Cade last night, because I feel like that should be the fulcrum of this offense. But I understand that takes fatigue. That this isn't 2K. You can't just spam the same play every single time. But yeah, I was really encouraged with how those two worked off each other. I think Stu might have had an assist, or at least made a couple of nice passes off drives. So look, I'm not saying this is the front court that should be starting for the next 5 years, but I think in terms of game one, they look really solid together. And in the fourth quarter in particular, it was basically Cade, Stu, and Duren. It was, if Cade wasn't scoring, he was finding Stu or Duren for a bucket around the rim. And then if Cade was missing his shots, it felt like Stu and Duren were there to clean it up each time. And they really helped claw that fourth quarter deficit from 19 points all the way back to 1 point, just off hustle, positioning, defense. And that was a really, really solid game for those two to open the season, particularly when they were on the floor together. So now, the next pair of players I want to get to, and this will be a bit quicker, but it's just the rookies. Asar Thompson, Marcus Sasser, both scored on debut, both made some crucial plays to help this team either get back in the game or make a stop defensively. Asar, he finished with 4 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 5 blocks. Struggled to convert from the field. He was 1 of 7, but the one shot he did hit was a 3-pointer. It was technically a pull-up, but he hit the 3. But yeah, those 5 blocks, I think he had 3 in the first 90 seconds. I think he caught Jimmy Butler and the Heat off guard. I don't think they knew a lot about Asar, and he came from the weak side, had some blocked shots. But Asar, look, I feel like that stat line is going to be very consistent with him. The 5 blocks might be a touch high, but honestly, from what we've seen at Summer League and in the preseason, if he's not getting 5 blocks, it'll be 5 blocks and steals. It'll be 5 steals. It just feels like he is the ultimate disruptor on the wing, and I think that is going to be crucial. Obviously, the jump shot and the scoring, the finishing around the rim is going to be what keeps him off the floor, and I believe that's what kept him off the floor last night. He played 27 minutes but didn't check in the last quarter, so Monty Williams elected to go with Killian and Alec Burks at times, and Jaden Ivey got in there a little bit in the fourth, but no Asar in the fourth is something to keep an eye on. Marcus Sasser, just a quick shout out to him, 8 points in only 10 minutes, 3 of 4 field goals, couple of threes. The main play for him was he had a really nice floater, and then I believe Jaden Ivey might have come down the floor again, got an M1, and Ivey missed a free throw, loose ball flies out, and it goes to Marcus Sasser, who just hits a big-time 3 with less than a minute to go in the third to bring the Pistons back within 6 points. And that was just a huge momentum swing. And I feel like that's the thing with Sasser that I was so excited about. And if you watched Houston last season, you know this guy's a big shot maker. He's an excellent shooter, but also shot creator. He's not just a three-point shooter. He can shoot off the bounce. He's got a lethal step back. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play once the Pistons get back to full health, if they do, particularly Monte Morris obviously coming back. But I just think to see him in these spot minutes throughout the preseason and last night come out, make some shots, make some plays is, yeah, look, he was a senior coming out of college. He's 22 years old, so he should be more NBA ready, but it was really exciting just to see that some of that shot making transition to his first official NBA game. Although last night in many ways there were so many positives, it almost felt like a win. The main takeaway from last night was that the starting lineup of Cade Cunningham, Asar, Stewart and Duran is going to struggle offensively mightily, and just from an offensive standpoint doesn't make a lot of sense. You have four genuine non-shooters, and I'm a believer in Stu's jumper, but in terms of respect from the defense, knocking him down at an average rate, none of those four guys outside of Cade, you're surrounding him with four guys who are not shooters in the eyes of 29 other teams in the NBA. So, and the stats back it up. It's a small sample size. I want to emphasize that. It was only 13 minutes that those five shared the floor simultaneously last night, but they had a negative 20.7 net rating, which, if you're not familiar with advanced stats, that is putrid. And I don't want to say you throw this out the door for game 2. I think the Pistons came back in the game. Each of those five guys made multiple defensive plays on offense to help this team win. So it's not an indictment on these guys individually. This isn't me slandering Killian. This is me saying that group of five is going to struggle to score unless Killian Hayes can hit a 3. I believe he was 0 from 6 last night. Asar hit a 3, but no one's going to defend him. Stu was decent. He's 2 of 3, but as we discussed earlier, the respect level is not there. So on the flip side as well, the defensive rating, they had 113 defensive rating, not great. These are just small sample size once again. So when I look at that defensive rating of 113, which is pretty bad, there's no way that offsets the offensive rating of 93, which is that is so low for today's NBA. That is low for historically. So in terms of that lineup, I'll be interested to see what Monty Williams does in game 2, because as I said, the team came back. There was plenty of positive last night, but when you look at the raw data on that lineup, it's really bad. So if I'm just thinking short term, the options I believe the Pistons could go or should go is if you're not going to start Jaden Ivey, if he's fully cemented in that 6-man role, which it seems like he is. Monty Williams has spoken about it. It seems like that's something he's going to have to work on to get out of that position. If he's not on the cards, I think it's either you start Joe Harris at the 3 and you keep Asar, or you have Asar at the 2, Joe Harris at the 3, Stewart at the 4, Duran at the 5, obviously Cade at the 1, or you insert Alec Burks. Like we saw that in the preseason, he played at the 2 with Asar, Stu, Duran. So I think those are two options. I think those two options make sense. They're both really good 3-point shooters. Joe Harris is more of an off-ball mover, clearly an excellent 3-point shooter off movement, off the catch. Burks is a really good shooter off the catch. He can get into the teeth of defense, get into the mid-range, make some pull-ups, get the free throw line. Bit of a different player, but either way, they're both guys that the defense respect, and they're both guys who fill the position with their size quite well, whether Joe Harris at the 3 and Burks is going to play at the 2. Those guys can slide in. I think that would be the next place I could see Monty going. Maybe not next game, but maybe another couple of games into the season. That's the change I could see happening. And then finally, I sort of just touched on him before, but Jaden Ivey, once again, really struggled off the bench. Much like he did in the final preseason game. He finished with 4 points, 1 of 7 from the field, and had 3 turnovers. But for me, and this is a concern for me with Jaden Ivey coming off the bench, is I 100% get the vision in the sense of, if you just look at it in a vacuum, Jaden Ivey is theoretically a guy who can come in, is an explosive athlete, get to the rim, score, and you can have him going against second units and he can put up 15 to 20 points in 20 to 25 minutes. I get that. But the thing for me, particularly at the moment without Monte Morris in the lineup, is I think Jaden Ivey is a 2. I understand he might have endeavours to become more of a creator, more of a playmaker, more of a guy with the ball in his hands, but I think he can be so damaging as an off-ball player. And when you're putting him alongside Marcus Sasser, I just don't think that gets the most out of Jaden. And that's on him because Marcus Sasser's a rookie. But that's on him and the coaching staff to try figure out a way to integrate him into games more. I think he was pressing majorly because it just felt like that whole first half, and he did this against Dallas in the final preseason game. He's just trying to get a bucket. So he just puts his head down and isn't aware of his surroundings. And he just takes a tough shot at the rim. Or there was even a bit of a bizarre play last night where I can't remember if he grabbed the rebound, but he pushed in transition. And then you could tell he just wanted a bucket so badly to get his season off to like a positive start. And he pulled up for like a mid-range jumper in transition, which I haven't seen in like 5 years anyone do that. But that's just a sign to me of him pressing. He wants to score. It's his second year. He had a really good rookie season. He's trying to score. He's trying to prove to his coach, like, I should be in the starting lineup. And that's my only concern with him coming off the bench, particularly at the moment with the injuries the Pistons have is, and I know he'll play alongside Cade, and it's not just him alongside Marcus Sasser, but I think he needs a true playmaker alongside him at all times. I think he has plenty of playmaking qualities, but it's more as like a drive and kick, drive and dish guy that I don't think your offense can be that all the time when Jaden Ivey's on the floor. Like, I think you want him alongside Cade. You can play him pick and roll. And I just don't think Marcus Sasser, he's a rookie. So, look, it seems like Jaden's coming off the bench for the foreseeable future. I thought he had some nice moments defensively. I thought he was trying. He was fighting through screens. I thought he looked okay on that end. Obviously, I feel like that's why he's coming off the bench, is because the coaching staff had put it to him that you need to improve defensively. That's just a guess. That's not me knowing anything insider. But I can't see why, for his offensive talents, he would be benched. So I assume it's going from his defensive flaws. So I think he did okay on defense. And, I mean, offensively, he's just got to play with a slower pace and let the game come to him, which is, I don't think, is 100% natural. So, yeah, tough game for Jaden. He wasn't able to... He got it going a little bit in the third with an and one and a couple of free throws, but overall it was a really, really tough game for Jaden. But look, he's a sophomore. I'm a big Jaden Ivey believer, and I truly think he should be starting at some point in the near future. I understand why he's coming off the bench, but nothing to be overly alarmed about with Jaden. I think it's a case of him adjusting to a very new role, which he's probably never played in his life. Much like a lot of NBA players, they come up as a star in their team, and then Jaden started. He was all-rookie second team. He was 6th in Rookie of the Year voting, I believe. He had an excellent rookie season and was pretty much the guy for a lot of that season with Cade out and then Boyan out for a lot of it. He was the number one option. So this is a major adjustment. I wouldn't be looking too much into it, but tough game for Jaden. That'll do it, guys. So much fun to have Pistons basketball back on the calendar. So much fun to have Cade Cunningham hooping. To see all these young guys sort of making plays. Pistons up to their eyeballs in a competitive game with the defending Eastern Conference champions. Please like, subscribe. Drop a comment with your thoughts on last night's game. Who impressed? What changes should the Pistons make? Should they make any? Let me know your thoughts. I'm very eager to hear them. But until next game against the Charlotte Hornets, go Pistons.